Chicken Soup for the Soul, and she said, you don't stop healing, or you don't heal in one day. It takes you all the way up to your last breath, and I do believe that. I do believe that.
So while you were writing, we were talking before the show started. There's just so much to talk about.
Yes,
your memoirs here. How did as you kept writing, did you feel the same way as you felt about your dad in the beginning, as you started writing your family, your dysfunctional family, and everything that you knew what was going on with your sister and so on? Did it change by the time did you get some understanding out of from writing also?
Oh yeah, certainly. I think you have to, because it clarifies things. You know, the cloudiness of some of the issues. It got me to began to speak with my sister more. She couldn't talk about any of it, of the past. And we began to compare stories, and we found out more things about my father and our family and about us that we didn't know before. So it encouraged healing within my sister and I. And she wasn't really all for it at first, but she truly believes that the book does help people heal when they read it. It's amazing.
I could see the evolution in Alice as we went through the process, where she would revisit those feelings as a child, but in that revisiting you could also see a healing process.
A healing process.
For myself, I understood, but I never really lived them until we started collaborating. So there was many times I would be on the road traveling and call her at midnight from a hotel room and say, now tell me again how you really felt. And it helped me deep dive in and help put some of those feelings to paper with her. And so then I got to walk in her skin, and it gave me an awakening, but also a healing. I got brought into the process more than I had been through our marriage.
And I think that's why it's so important that that you as an individual, before you make a commitment to somebody else, that you be honest about your past. You know, severe repercussions can happen from that if you try to hold that in. And for me, it was very important that I was upfront with him and let him know. And
how did you feel when she started?
Well, I thought it was very courageous for her to come forward before we were married, because we were engaged, and then before we got married, she thought through the process of having to share her past with me. And I thought it was just absolutely one of the most courageous things I've ever seen. We just finished meeting Paul Young, author of The Shack, and he told a very heartfelt story of how he was abused as a child, and he never shared that with his spouse. And once he did, many years later, it practically tore their marriage apart. And he went through many years of counseling, and he said that his marriage was strained for almost 11 years. His wife even said, how can I ever believe another word that comes out of your mouth if you've kept that hidden from me all this time? And so in retrospect, it made a great book and a great story for him to come forward with, and he's doing a wonderful job sharing that. But Alice had the foresight to overcome that, roll that dice, and take the risk of driving me away by just airing her past pains and allowing us to really start a marriage already healed.
for me, truth and honesty is what a relationship is all about.
You're awesome.
And for me, I felt like my whole life had been covering up for all those weird and strange, to me, things happening on at my house that I was trying to hide. And I knew they weren't normal, they weren't right, they were wrong, and I spent a lifetime trying to hide it. So for me, true love was just being totally open and starting from square one.
And probably it happened too, I'm just going to assume that, because as you were dating, you were getting to know Rick, and you loved him enough to trust that his love for you, that you could let go and tell him.
Yes.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Did I say that correctly?
Yes.
Because
you
he probably couldn't
well.
tell that to other people. He was able to share. It was true love, because to me, love is not just saying, "Oh, I love you," and love, love, love. No, it's being there for the person when they need you, and to understand who they were. And you didn't know each other before you met each other. I mean, of course. So you would, whatever your life is, what made you today.
Yeah. He truly rescued me.
I
felt at that point, he rescued me from
totally incredible.
Being very alone, feeling very alone, because at this point I still didn't know my Japanese family, and I don't know if we mentioned it, but the whole premise of of the book was that my mom had become a Christian and I had lost my family because of Christian condemnation. And they were Buddhist believers in Japan, and so I lost them because of that basis of all things. And so, yeah.
So she experienced prejudice in a way
Right.
from her community,
Right.
Yes,
right?
yeah,
Because of
yeah.
her religion beliefs.
It was
religious
twofold. Her father, being dictatorial, almost severed all the relationship with the
alcoholic, they're
Japanese
very
family
controlling.
initially. But then, as her mom tried to keep some fragmented contact, they severed it on their end. So when Alice became more of an adult and she tried to find her family, it became very difficult because they would not respond to any letters or anything like
Right.
that. And so it just was a culmination of roadblocks. And so we considered it a real miracle that we were, after almost 50 years of her life, able to bridge that gap.
Wow.
And
I
that's
felt
the-
like I was searching for something all my
Yeah.
life, but I didn't know what it
You
was.
didn't know, yeah,
I didn't even
yeah,
realize it was
yeah.
family.
Wow.
And then I met him, and he comes from a really huge family, and they're all very supportive.
Yeah.
And I saw the way family was supposed to mingle and mix and support each other, and I thought, I'm supposed to have that,
Mm-hmm.
and I really deserve that, and I should claim it. I should go and get it. And he kind of pushed me and said,
To
yes,
go into-
indeed, you
to
should.
that, yeah. I found a very beautiful story in this book. There's many beautiful stories in this book, of course, but there was one that kind of moved me when you were both dating each other about 6 months before Rick asked you to marry him, if I'm correct. Alice, would you read this wonderfully passage of your life? Let me see if I can find it. Page 194. Here we go.
You're going to make me cry, aren't you?
Oh, I'll probably cry too, but yeah, I think that maybe this will give some people ideas on how to ask their beloved their hand in marriage.
Oh, okay, yes. Yeah, this, I remember that night, walking up the driveway, and the house was dimly lit, and I didn't know why. I could see candles flickering, and this is what I found out. Rob and I have been dating almost 6 months now. I had no idea why the summons to his house on this Sunday evening as I drove my Pontiac Sunbird into his driveway. He had said he wanted to show off his cooking skills and not just out of a can. All I knew was that the more I learned about Rob and his family and got to know his children, and keep in mind, Rob is Rick, because we changed the
Right,
name
yeah, I was just gonna-
in order
yeah.
to protect
That threw me
some
off a little
people.
bit, but I'm
Yes.
okay.
The more I fell in love with all of them, I was loving life for the first time. It was like I had never been alive before. I knocked on the front door and with what had become habit, let myself in. The air smelled of freshener and furniture polish as I entered. Inside, I was startled to find the living room dark, save 2 glowing candles. There, sitting in front of me, was the coffee table adorned with 2 white pillar candles burning brightly. He's so romantic. The candles were flanked on 3 sides with dark red roses. It was a picture-perfect setting, but I had no idea why. As I slowly moved closer for a curious look, I noticed something sitting on the fourth side of the burning candles facing me. The fourth side held a sparkling diamond ring with each cut facet reflecting the dancing candle light. Oh, I still remember it shining. And when I reached over and picked up the ring, my eyes were greeted with tiny giggles. I looked over my shoulder to see 3 approaching men, 1 grown and 2 half pints as they peeked around the corner of the hallway. They were dressed in their Sunday suits right down to their neckties. Rob approached and placing his firm hands on my weak shoulders, he guided me to the couch. All 3 of my men, you did it. All 3 of my men knelt in unison and in turn each asked me to marry them, starting with Rick. My kids go where I go and I feel they should be a part of this marriage proposal. For the second time in my life, I have no words. That doesn't happen often. Sitting there and drinking it all in, I couldn't believe what I was seeing and hearing. Rob and his young boy, Anthony, were a bended knee, while poor innocent Scott was struggling with his balance as he hunched down in a squat. I didn't realize I was crying until Scott catapulted into my lap and started wiping my tears away. They're tears of happiness, Scotty, Rob said, choking back his own emotions. Without my permission, Anthony picked up my left hand in his tiny palm, and Rob slipped the ring on my finger. It was gold with 1 diamond in the middle, flanked by 2 smaller ones. The smaller diamonds are from Scotty and me, Anthony announced triumphantly. I didn't feel the need to say yes as my tears shouted my answer. I just gathered them in my arms and gave them all my love. I had to give some away because my spilling heart couldn't hold all of it.
So you see
Seems like
why I asked
yesterday,
you to-
but here we've been married 29 years, so and they have
And
children
this
now.
is love. Okay, in case anybody wants to know that word.
I think part of the reason we related so well, and I could understand and accept her